There's a little bit of mulliganing happening here. Henry Romero on the left side, he's playing red, white, blue. Control question mark, you know, no cryptic commands, no big sweepers. It's a red, white, blue deck.
Yeah.
It looks like a really good deck. It was running, what's an angel called, Zach?
Lightning Angel.
A Lightning
4
Angel.
copies.
Card that you don't see very often.
There's a lot of lightning in general in this deck. There's bolts, helices, and angels.
Uh-huh.
And coming out of Patrick's deck, also similar amount of lightning. You got bolts, helices, but you've got Geist of Saint Traps instead of lightning angels. Nice. Deathrite Shamans, Tarmogoyfs, Noble Hierarchs, Snapcaster Mages, kind of the 5-color zoo deck that we've seen from Ken Yukihiro and Shugai Nakamura as well.
Yeah.
A few differences of card choices, but very similar decks overall.
That's right. And, you know, we were talking about Patrick and his deck choice earlier, and you know, this does suit his tastes, even if it isn't the normal color that he plays.
Again, the innovation out of this list, 4 copies of Lingering Souls. The deck actually plays 22, 23 lands, and Lingering Souls ensures, though, that you have something to do with all that extra mana.
Mm-hmm.
You also play 3 Noble Hierarch, 4 Deathrite Shaman as well.
Now, this matchup, I would guess, favors Henry because he has Lightning Bolts, Paths, and Lightning Helix at his disposal, plus Snapcaster Mage to buy all of those back. Is that true?
I would guess
Geist of Saint Traps is an issue.
Geist of Saint Traps is a big issue, and Lingering Souls is a big issue.
It
Without
is
any
too.
masked removal, he has, and no Electrolyze even. He has very few things to do about a Lingering Soul.
Okay, so maybe it's a lot more even than I was thinking, and I did just see Elspeth Knight Errant come off the top of the deck there for Patrick Sullivan.
Right.
Now, we're not quite at that point yet, but it could come down a turn sooner than usual if Henry decides to use up his mana or has another enter the battlefield tap land like a second Celestial Colonnade on his turn. Otherwise, he can represent mana leak and remand and make it so that Patrick Sullivan's going to be wary about casting one of the most powerful cards in his deck out there.
I mean, the other thing about Elspeth, like, Henry doesn't actually have that many good answers to it. He's got 2 mana leaks, 2 remands. Otherwise, he's going to have to throw 2 burn spells at it or hope to get through in the air with a Lightning Angel and get another burn spell. And even having done that, Elspeth's going to generate some advantage. All
right, so Patrick Sullivan decided, you know, I'm just going to bash with this thing. He's like, he likes attacking. Attack him. And he's going to play a Tarmogoyf post-combat.
So that Tarmogoyf only a 1/2 right now. However, very
there's a lightning bolt for Henry. This is an opportune time to take down that Tarmogoyf. You can use a lightning bolt. It'll turn the Goyf into a 2/3, but 3 is still enough to kill that, and he could get off the table right now, not have to burn a Path to Exile on it.
And I think you have to seize the opportunity to do that. You're still probably going to have to, you know, the question is what land to get. You can get a basic mountain with that Scalding Tarn. You can also Helix it right now and make good use of your mana, but I think he opts to cast
wow. He's going to bolt the Deathrite Shaman, though, which is actually going to make the Tarmogoyf a
3/4.
A 3/4 now, so it is out of bolt range. He's got a Helix in his hand. You got to figure he's got a Path now.
I mean, it looks like he does have a Path. The other thing is he does not want to get hit with the card like Elspeth right now, which he would not be able to deal with if he allowed the Deathrite Shaman to stay alive.
That's right. And that's an interesting play because Patrick really did put a lot of pressure on Henry because he didn't allow him to have the play of just, wow, Tribal Flames target you. That's 4 damage.
And then trying to get a sorcery in the graveyard to make Tarmogoyf even bigger.
So there's the 5th.
Right.
And there's the Path to Exile.
So Patrick, no blue source, evidently. You think he would, obviously, if he had the blue source, he'd get that out before, you know, so try to go for an extra point of damage with his Tribal Flames.
That's right.
But that being said, 4 is still a healthy amount of damage for 2 mana.
Right, and he's going to play his land for the turn. It's a Sacred Foundry, and he's just going to pass the turn back here.
So he still does have access to Elspeth. Looks like Henry has a Snapcaster Mage and some burn spells, but not a really good answer to the Elspeth in his hand right now. Patrick also has 2 Lightning Helices in his hand, meaning that Henry is at effectively 8 life right now, assuming nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Henry opts to not take any damage from his Hollowed Fountain. He's just going to play his land tapped, and he's going to sit back. And Patrick Sullivan just says, yeah, I'm just going to play land, and you can go, man.
So he's not going to run Elspeth out there?
He's not. He's playing around a counterspell. And he's just going to say, I'm just going to Helix you because, look, Patrick's taking a ton of damage from his lands. He's down to 11 now, and Henry's up to 17. And we know that Henry's deck can turn the corner very quickly
So
on beating down.
My question about trying to play around a counterspell there is just very simply, I mean, he's not gonna get to 7 mana to play around Mana Leak. So when does Patrick think he's gonna have a window to resolve Elspeth? The thing is, right now with Henry having 3 blue. Oh, okay. So there's a Lightning Angel right there. I have to imagine it's going to eat 2 Lightning Helixes.
You should have heard Patrick.
What did he say?
He goes, "Oh, he said, is this 2003?"
So I mean, Henry does tap out right here, and that gives Patrick an opportunity to resolve Elspeth. The question is whether he wants to throw 2 Lightning Helixes at the Angel. I think you do, right? I mean, I think you have to just say, like, I need my Elspeth to stay alive.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, it's going to eat double Helix. That is going to bolster Patrick Sullivan's life total all the way back up to 17 and give him a little bit of breathing room. He's also going to crack his fetch land there, but
he needs a blue, I think, for Tribal Flames.
Not where I thought that game was going.
Get a Steam Vents or something.
Yeah.
I actually played with it 2 years ago.
And he couldn't find one.
That's the one thing about playing this deck. Is like you've got to sequence your lands exactly right. The Romero still at a healthy 16, but I mean Elspeth definitely a card capable of dealing a lot of damage very fast. Again, Henry not very many good answers to tokens. No Electrolyze, no Supreme Verdict, so Elspeth might just churn out a steady stream of guys.
2 for 2. Card's worth about 2 cards.
Couldn't quite see what he drew there. But here comes
Elspeth.
Elspeth. So he has, in fact, set that up. He's going to make a token. It's going to be at 5. So even if Henry untaps and has another Lightning Angel, that's not going to be enough to kill Elspeth on its own.
I was hoping you would have said yes when
again, Henry still has the Colonnade there, which can also threaten Elspeth, but not quite enough lands
not this
to
turn. Even if he has a land this turn, he can't activate it.
Right.
He does have the land, and he's actually just going to pass the turn back. He's got a Snapcaster and an island in his hand.
So if he Snapcasters a burn spell at Elspeth, then attacks it with the Colonnade, he's going to be capable of dealing with the Elspeth. Elspeth being very, very aggressive right now.
Very aggressive. It's going to
you have to expect, well, I was expecting Henry to Snapcaster Mage a Bolt and save himself some damage, but that Bolt probably going straight to... Right? Bolt probably going straight to Elspeth.
Okay.
Or Helix probably, yeah.
And that's going to leave Elspeth in Celestial Colonnade range.
That's exactly right.
And it's going to leave Patrick Sullivan with just... Is he going to... Oh, he is going to attack with the Snapcaster Mage as well.
Patrick probably just going to take 2 from that Snapcaster.
No, I think they both went to Elspeth.
Okay, just to make sure Path to Exile didn't happen.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Even then, it would just put Elspeth down to 1. So.
Right. Puts it in range.
So attack you for 2, thanks to the Noble Hierarch. Still a good card, yes.
Yeah, turns out, even though it gets upstaged a little bit by Deathrite Shaman, it's
still does
card
work.
does some work, yeah. All right,
and a Geist
right
of
back
Saint
at
Traft.
you.
And that's under counter magic as well. Now, there is still Snapcaster Mage to stand there and eat it, but Snapcaster Mage is very fragile.
Right, and the Geist would be a 3/3 thanks to the Exalted from Noble Hierarch.
Absolutely.
Now, Henry does have a Celestial Colonnade back. You don't really want that card to play defense, but sometimes you have to, and it's doing a good job of that right here.
I mean, he certainly is in a position to race as Patrick Sullivan is at 16. And Henry is at 12, so that looks like that is going to have to be his line.
So Patrick does not actually play Path to Exile, at least in the main deck. Has 3 copies in the sideboard, so no particularly good way other than Might of Alara to get that Geist of Saint Traft through the Celestial Colonnade. This looks like the card in his hand looks like Demonic Dread. I don't think that's what it is. Might be another Geist, in which case you might just like attack, deal him 4, play another Geist. Yep. That's what we're seeing. Just every point of damage counts.
It absolutely does. He's going to activate it, and he's going to block. He says, look good, take 5.
Yeah, take 5. Have fun. And I think we're going to see another Geist come down for Patrick. Yeah, the Angel does not get to sit on the table. Trying to figure out how to best... Oh, okay, so that's another Geist of Saint Traft, and he could theoretically play a Lingering Souls. I guess that's not the last card in his hand. I couldn't quite make it out. Oh, and we see a Lightning Angel from Henry does double duty, can get Patrick down to 11, potentially 9 if the Snapcaster Mage attacks.
Yeah, there's a
and,
nice tempo
block.
hit from a Lightning Angel for sure. I can see why Henry likes that card.
I'm telling you.
I don't know if it's good enough. I don't know. I have to try it out myself probably to figure it out.
It is
but what do
very
you think?
well positioned. I mean, it's not the kind of card that I like. You know, you're only getting 3 power for 4 mana, but dodging Lightning Bolt and Lightning Helix is very, very good in this format.
It is indeed. All right, and he does in fact play it out, and he's going to attack for 3.
All right, so
Whittling
there's a
him
Lingering
down.
Souls.
That
for
is
Patrick.
for sure a Lingering Souls, and I think a Blood Crypt there as well.
So I mean, if Patrick attacks, he still knocks Henry down to 3.
Yeah.
Potentially 2 with the Soldier token, and can make 4 1/1 spirits, and Henry's back's against the wall. Patrick just knows how to play aggro decks so well.
He
just
really does.
not
He's very
mind throwing away
confidently
resources.
He's just like, attackers,
Uh-huh.
here they come.
Here we go.
This is how we do this.
So yeah, Snapcaster having to trade with the token just to keep Henry alive.
All right, Henry's
All right.
going to take 4
3 damage.
down to 3. Now the board state clearly favors Patrick Sullivan here, or it clearly favors Henry here at this stage, but Patrick with his Lingering Souls is going to change that situation.
And like again, Lingering Soul's not a card that you see, automatically 4 copies of in decks like this. But again, it's kind of a red guard if you use it like one. You just start turning spirits sideways, like don't care whether they die or not. And yeah, we're going to see it flash back. Now, a Remand here from Henry would be huge if that's the last card in his hand, but I don't believe that it is.
He's only got 2 in the deck,
Yeah.
and it doesn't look like that's the card that he had in his hand.
There's a line of play. I don't think you pursue it where you just quadruple block the Lightning Angel, but
I had to give up the.
I don't think
Interesting.
that's quite what you're wanting to do here. Leaves
I mean,
you.
he does have lethal, not quite on the table here, thanks to the Celestial Colonnade.
Yeah.
So yeah, he does
You
not
can get Henry to 1.
quadruple block. Yeah, he's 1 burn spell or many things in his deck away from winning
Yeah.
here. Let's see what he draws.
Every top deck for Patrick just huge right here.
And now he does have to be careful though, right? Because he's
yeah.
at 8, and Henry, if he
Henry
goes
can
end
attack
step
for 7.
bolt you and then hit you
Yeah.
for 7, you're just dead.
Right. So, seeing. Okay.
Snapcaster Mage is one of his outs, though. We know that he has Tribal Flames.
So if he has a spell that doesn't cost 2, that's probably the one you want. But
Yep, and
he's
that's
able to
it.
take
Patrick
away.
Sullivan takes down Game 1 versus Henry Romero. Looking to improve to 12-2 and keeps his dreams of another GP top 8 in a fairly short period of time
Yeah.
for Patrick Sullivan here alive. Henry, local hero, he's from Portland, and he's at 11-2 and battling, trying to top 8 his home GP, which is something that every player wants to do.
we were seeing Patrick was sort of joking. It's like Geist is saying Trav tap to deal 4 damage.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what it did this game, and it did
Twice.
a very good job of it.
Yeah.
So cards that Pat could sideboard in. We see Path to Exile. Thoughtseize also has to be a consideration. Thunderball Hellkite, a nice trump to all those angels.
Henry has those, or Patrick has those in his
Patrick
board?
has those in his board.
Okay.
And I think you're going to want the extra Snapcaster Mage. But let's now take a look at the other
Yeah,
match.
let's take a look here. So we've got Greg Hatch on the right-hand side, and he is playing Splinter Twin combo up against Ben Stark on the left, and he's playing Scapeshift. Yep, we see that pesky planes out of the sideboard that we saw from from PV yesterday.
The planes. What was that opening up? I remember us talking about
Leyline.
Right. Yeah, it allows you to cast
Sanctity,
Leyline
yeah.
of Sanctity. Although I don't see Leyline of Sanctity in here for.
Okay, that's
no, I'm wrong. I'm sorry. No, I was confusing Greg with Ben Stark.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So for Leyline of Sanctity out of Ben Stark's board, Plains definitely allows you to turn that on.
All right. Peer through depths for Ben Stark. Looks like he's working on setting up a combo. This is kind of an interesting one because both of these decks are similarly paced, right? Like they go off at a similar time, and they kind of have a similar game plan of using Cryptic Command and tempo plays to keep their opponent off balance long enough to get their combo together.
We saw from Samuela Estradi like a far more combo-intensive version of the Splinter Twin deck. Greg's deck, though, cards like Vendilion Click, Remand, Cryptic Command, Dispel, Shadow of Doubt, a lot more control-oriented version of the deck, and kind of a control deck that can set up a combo kill.
Okay, and Greg Hatch has decided to flash in his Vendilion click here.
Well, the way the game was going, it's like
If you look at Greg's board, he has Splinter Twin in his hand. He has a Pester Mine on the table. So all he needs to do is protect it and draw a second red source, and he can end the game right away.
That's right. Now, he's already targeted Ben Stark with his Vendilion click, so he's not going for that line of play. But he wanted to sneak that in while Ben was tapped out, and Ben has some really sweet stuff. He's got Escape Shift, which is a potential win condition, and we all know how good Cryptic Command is too. So Ben's going to draw a card, and he draws into a Farseek, and he just instantly draws another Escape Shift. It's good to be Ben Stark sometimes.
Sick life.
Yeah. Now, right now, Greg Hatch is actually completely tapped out as well. So if Ben can find a way, he doesn't have critical mass. He needs to get up to 7 lands and then resolve that Escape Shift before he can kill Greg. He has a land drop coming this turn, but that's still not quite enough.
He does have Farseek, and he could theoretically Snapcaster a Farseek as well.
He can set up next turn, but then it's a whole different game, right, Zach? Because now all of a sudden Greg has untapped mana.
No, that's exactly right. And
Also,
I think if
interestingly,
you're Ben,
look at the clock here. It's 7 damage coming at Ben Stark
Yeah,
next
that's
turn,
for sure.
putting him in bolt range.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's playing that Snapcaster Mage on Farseek just to block Snapcaster Mage. I think he's tapping out. He's saying, like, look, if you have Splinter Twin, you've got it. You've missed a couple of land drops. You don't have a second red source, so you have to get an island or a tech edge doesn't do it.
Yeah. And Greg is running 4 bolts in the main here.
Right.
So there's a darn decent chance that Ben could be dead if he doesn't do anything else about it.
A darn decent
Look,
chance.
man, calling it like I see it.
So Greg, he has 5 islands in his deck, 3 Tectonic Edge. Do you see 2 tech edges there already, 1 island there already? But a lot of the lands he could draw are actually not going to cut it for him. I love the use of the singleton copy of Peak, 0 copies of Gataxian Pro.
That's interesting.
We have seen some awesome numbers here in this match today. You've
Right.
got to respect the Pestermite Vendilion click beatdown plan.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes it gets the
think
job done.
I mean, these are high-powered flash creatures, right? And Ben snap blocks to prevent certain death. We can. We're gonna stay on this one for a little bit.
So I mean, Ben has 7 lands in Escape Shift. Greg doesn't know that Ben has Escape Shift.
That's right. And remember, he just took it. He just drew another one.
So I mean,
so if he has a land drop here, he can just play it.
Now, Greg does have in his deck 3 copies of Remand, 2 copies of Cryptic. Can't cast Cryptic, but Remand might do it.
Ben has a beautifully set up board here too for Escape Shift, in that he's only got 1 of his mountains on the battlefield, which is a critical play. The rest are lurking in his library, and he's just going to say, look, I'm going for it right now.
Like, I've got 1 mana open. Do you have something or do you not? And does Greg have something? He has a lot of cards in his hand.
He's got something.
Yeah. Is he gonna
peek?
Peek in response, try to draw a counter? Oh, Twisted Image.
Twisted Image to draw a card.
Yeah, that 2 dispels.
He's got 2 dispels, but those aren't going to cut it here.
It turns out Escape Shift is a sorcery, not an instant.
That's right. Which normally you would think would make it worse, but in this particular case, looks like it's going to make it significantly better.
Yeah, trying to see if he can do anything. I mean, he could cast. So with Tectonic Edge up, that's why Ben had to Farseek first, so that Greg doesn't Tech Edge his Valakut in response, leaving Ben with not enough lands to kill Greg.
I see. Yep. But he does have enough.
But he does have enough because he resolved Farseek.
Yep.
Turns out Ben
he's
very good.
Yeah, and we've also we noted before, he's made sure that he's kept enough mountains left, right, so that he can get a Valakut and the mountains and do the 18 damage. So Greg Hatch is going to go ahead and Tech Edge here, though I think it's moot.
I mean,
you of course make your opponent go show you the mountains and the combo, but
I mean, I think the thing you do here is you blow up Valakut and hope that the second Valakut is in Ben's hand.
Yeah.
And that he was wanting you to just concede or misplay as he
exactly. You always make him do it. All right, and Ben just sacks his whole
boards. He's going to get
of lands
Valakut
because he needs
6
to
mountains.
do 7. So there's 1, 2. Remember, these are coming in simultaneously, even though he's presenting them to us separately. And there's the other Valakut. So Greg Hatch knows that as long as there's 2 more, then that's it. All right, we can go back to our main feature match as Ben Stark defeats Greg Hatch 2-0 and remains in contention for top 8. Let's catch up with what we have on our main match. Henry Romero versus Patrick Sullivan. It looks like Patrick has 3 lands and some cards in his graveyard that I can't quite see. Something got mana leaked, it looks like.
Okay.
Otherwise, the players are just developing their mana.
All right, yeah, there's 2 lands in Sully's graveyard.
Yeah, two Scalding Tarns and one other card that
I would guess that's a Geist of St. Draft, but it doesn't really look like it from the art.
It doesn't.
18, 16.
Pointing something out. All right, so we see a Threads of Disloyalty from Romero, a great weapon against Patrick's Tarmogoyfs. Not that many other targets, though. Only 3 Noble Hierarchs, 4 Deathrite Shamans. You're not going to argue with Threadsing those, but you have to want that card at a
that's a Lingering Souls.
Oh, okay.
So he mana leaked a Lingering Souls.
Never
where you want to be, but sometimes you got to do it.
So we see the Lingering Souls flashback resolve. Patrick with a Steam Vents open, no green mana. I believe he has a Tarmogoyf in his hand, as well as a Might of Alara, Deathrite Shaman, several cards, but actually unable to cast many of those.
Hedge against Spellscry into costume.
Now holding Lightning Bolt mana up. Some Alpha Lightning Bolts, I think, from Patrick. Those are well worn.
Yes.
Over his days as a burn mage.
I have a set of Beta Bolts that look like that, and mine don't have as many miles on them as his do.
You kind of have to hope he has like a tally of like mages who have died.
I mean, you can't really notch the cards because they'd be marked, but he's got something.
40 cards in your deck.
All right. So, I mean, Romero, lots of time, only at 17, access to 5 mana. Game's going quite a bit differently from the way that we saw it go last time. Grip full of green cards for Patrick. Patrick can resolve a Deathrite Shaman off his Blood Crypt, but really out of Fountain Steam Vents not doing a whole lot.
How about a Batterskull for Henry Romero? It's going to resolve, and here we go. He's got a Batterskull, 4/4 Vigilance and Lifelink. It can do a lot.
Patrick is capable of resolving Geist of St. Traff now, but that Batterskull is going to put the game away in short order. I mean, you have to. Does Patrick have 2 burn spells to try and and stem the bleeding? I mean, okay. So what Patrick's going to do is block with a Spirit and bolt it. Yeah. But I mean that.
But that is not a winning long-term proposition for him. It's just what he must do currently.
Right. So he's going to develop his board with a Deathrite Shaman, which will give him access to more green mana, assuming it doesn't get hit by a Threads of Disloyalty. And again, the Bolt coming back, Bolt in essence doing 4 damage, and the Spirit token saving Sully 4 points of life. But still, yeah, I mean, exactly not where you want to be in a situation like this.
So it looks like Henry's going to lead things off with his attack step, battle in there for 4.
All right. And then Henry, by no means out of gas, can hold up Spell Snare for anything like Lightning Helix. Can also Threads of Disloyalty the Deathrite Shaman, which gives Henry access to a Deathrite Shaman. Can't really use its abilities. Can use the mana, but crucially deprives Patrick of green mana, as well as a 2 damage clock every turn.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So the Bolt not targeting Lingering Souls token. The Bolt was intending,
No, so he tried to Threads of Loyalty the Deathrite Shaman, and Patrick bolted it.
Right. So, so Patrick down to 12 and Henry up to 20. So I think that Batterskull connected.
Oh, I see.
Even though Patrick left a token back to block it. So.
Okay. Geist of St. Traft hits the battlefield for Patrick Sullivan. And let's see what Henry's got in store. He's got a ton of lands this turn. And here is a chump block.
That is what it looks like.
You see him casually toss it away. And Henry just says go. He's got a Spell Snare in his hand and a Snapcaster Mage. One other card. I think it's a Bolt.
Yeah, and so we see Patrick get a Mystery Rainforest. They can get him green mana, but the Tarmogoyf not going to do anything. Going to run right into a Spell Snare from Romero. I mean, Patrick, not really a whole lot of answers to Batterskull. We see 2 Ancient Grudges in his sideboard, but I'm almost positive he did not bring them in this matchup.
Right.
And he could thought sees it if he has access to it. Unclear whether he does. Path to Exile deals with it temporarily. Tribal Flames deals with it temporarily, but without actually having any of those cards in his hand, that Batterskull is doing some punishing. Now,
all right, and Patrick Sullivan says, I'm not going to play in a snare here, but he is playing into potential mana leak, which in this case is going to be Snapcaster mana leak. But
yeah. Elspeth could have been very devastating right there, allowing Sullivan to hit for 9 points of damage. But, I mean, with Batterskull gaining 4 a turn, even that's not quite enough. So Romero draws a bolt, thinking about what to do here. I mean, I think the question is whether to bolt the Spirit token and attack with Snapcaster. That's exactly what he does. Yeah, and it's going to kill in 2 attacks. Geist of St. Traft playing some D.
Also the thing that you never want to do, right?
Yeah.
Block with Geist of St. Traft, especially on just a Snapcaster mage, but he's got to do it. It saves him an entire turn. And there's another Elspeth. Okay, so now he's going to be able to hide behind Elspeth for a while and at least try to find a way. Now, the downside here, of course, is that Patrick is actively falling behind on the life total situation, and his deck is ultimately a burn-style aggro deck. Now, it does have the ability, though, to do much bigger chunks of damage than normal burn decks can. I mean, it can do 5, 5, 5, and eat through somebody's life total, and Geist of St. Traft can do the same. But Henry seems to be in a pretty commanding position as that Batterskull is basically unassailable, right? Like,
no, that's exactly right.
Even
Although
if Patrick had one of these cards.
is big enough to deal with it.
Oh, it can just eat it?
Yeah, I think so.
But it's going to get snared.
Yeah.
Does he have another?
He does have another, but he can't cast it this
turn. So it's going to have to be
he wants to use his Elspeth. Patrick, if Henry keeps drawing lands, Patrick not actually in that bad a shape right now.
No, as long as one of the lands isn't a Celestial Colony. Now, there's a Lightning Bolt, but that still isn't
still
quite
only
enough.
gets Patrick to 1. I mean, a very intelligent block with his Geist of St. Traft.
Yes, that was a fantastic block in retrospect. I mean, I'm sure he saw it, but now that we have all the information, it looks really good.
And of course, Henry not revealing that he has the Lightning Bolt. I mean, Patrick has some work to do this game, no doubt about it.
But he has given himself a chance here, right?
All right.
What is he doing?
He's dealing 3 damage to the Batterskull token, which makes Henry pick up his Batterskull and play it again. But it does mean that
it means he doesn't get attacked next turn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is booster draft number 19.
Yeah, Tarmogoyf very likely to stick. Elspeth making a token. Patrick has Steam Vents Hallowed Fountain up.
So as the board state goes, Patrick has essentially stabilized here. Unfortunately, he is not currently able to advance his game plan, but this is a lot better than the situation I would have predicted for 4 turns after.
No, that's exactly
They're counting up Tarmogoyf, by the way, right now.
And I mean, Henry's got Bolt in his hand. I mean, Patrick's at 5, so I mean, Henry's drawing to a lot of outs. Also can pick up his Batterskull and just recast it, not leaving Patrick in the greatest position. But certainly, at least Patrick is playing a game of Magic right now after reeling for the first 10 turns of the game.
Absolutely. Now the Batterskull, man, that thing's a beating.
Coming down, I mean. Yeah, I was seeing if Patrick had any sort of counter magic to counter it on the way back. It doesn't look like he does. That said, pumping Tarmogoyf with Elspeth.
Was that a Snapcaster mage he just drew?
I cannot tell. It might have been.
That would be lethal.
That would be exactly lethal.
Because he also has a Lightning Bolt in hand.
So you probably play Batterskull just to bait any sort of counter spell, and then just go Bolt, Snapcaster, Bolt you if Patrick is able to do anything about it.
And he can do that all leisurely at instant speed.
Now, the reason you don't is very simply because Patrick could respond with Lightning Helix and actually get out of burn rate, and all of a sudden you're down a Snapcaster and a Lightning Bolt.
Ah, yes.
So,
and unfortunately for Patrick, he doesn't have the luxury of just keep passing the turn back, so he's going to have to play, in this case,
Henry's just going to kill him.
And now Henry sees that Patrick has just red-black up and says, look, I've got these 2 cards that kill you, man.
Yeah.
And that's it. So they equalize. Henry Romero wins that one to go 1-1 with Patrick Sullivan. We're going to get a game 3 here, and this looks to be a pretty sweet matchup. Now, I'm curious to see if Patrick changes his sideboard plan based on the Batterskull. It's obviously a huge issue for him. We see him looking at Thoughtseize there.
Interestingly, sideboarding out Lightning Helix, which is not terribly intuitive given the amount of burn that Henry can lob at him. On the other hand, there aren't that many good targets for it. Certainly not targeting Lightning Angel.
No.
Henry probably not leaving even Mind Sensor in his deck after board, and it runs into Spell Snare. So definitely makes sense to sideboard out Lightning Helix.
Does it also here? I have a question. I don't want to mean to interrupt you, Zach, but when you're making that decision about in regards to Spell Snare, doesn't that make it more likely also though that your Tarmogoyfs are going to get hit by Spell Snare?
Well, and if you notice what he did, I think he may have sideboarded out his Tarmogoyfs, or is thinking about it at the very least, because he saw Threads of Disloyalty, potentially because of Spell Snare.
Wow, if he could just blank all of his Threads and all of his Spell Snares, that's pretty good. I mean, the Threads can still hit a random token or something, but that's effectively blank.
So Patrick sided out his Helix's game 2. It looks like he's leaving Helix in his deck for game 3.
Okay.
Sideboarding out Path to Exile. Maybe he's leaving in a couple of copies. Oh, no, he's siding out his Goyfs.
His Goyfs are coming out. That is a bold move.
I think he's leaving in Thunderball Hellkite as his plan to deal with Lightning Angel. Least one path in the board. How many more paths do we see? Okay, 2 paths, 3 paths. So just going without Path to Exile, saying, you know what, I'm just going to power through a Lightning Angel and use my burn spells to try and dome him. Also, Thoughtseize potentially could save him from some of that, but
from a Batterskull.
From a Batterskull, yeah. But I don't know about sideboarding out Path right here. I mean, it seems like Lightning Angel actually a pretty problematic card. I mean, you've got Tribal Flames and Snapcasters, but not a whole lot else, and you know that Henry has 4
he's putting
spell
some
snares.
stuff back in or out? What is he doing here?
Oh, he's actually siding out bolts.
That's got to hurt his.
And siding out Might of Alara, too.
Wow.
So he's bringing in Thundermaw Hellkite. He's bringing in Ancient Grudge, I think. And 4 copies of Thoughtseize and a Snapcaster Mage. So I think he's planning to just rip his hand apart and try and stick try to stick a Geist to Saint Draft.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty nice, like 1-3-5 is like Thoughtseize you, Geist you, Thundermaw Hellkite you. Like that hits from so many different angles. It's going to be hard for Henry to keep up with that. And clearly Patrick's deck is more aggressive, even though we have seen Henry's deck turn the corner, so to speak, and turn into the aggressor pretty quickly.
I mean, the nice thing about the Geist to Saint Draft plan is if he can take a Lightning Angel, there's really not a whole lot Henry can do about that card. I mean, he has Spell Snares that are blank against it, Electrolyzes that are blank, Bolts that are blank, Helices that are blank.
Are you talking about a Thundermaw Hellkite?
Path to Exiles that are blank. No, just Geist to Saint Draft.
Geist to Saint Draft, right, okay.
So, I mean, you know, Patrick, of course, needs to hit on his Thoughtseizes. And he knows he can get at least 1 threat in under the Mana Leak. So, and we see Negate from Henry, actually. Okay, so Patrick did not have access to a turn 1 Thoughtseize. He now could theoretically turn 2 Thoughtseize, but I think he wants to wait as long as possible to make sure he hits the cards that he wants to hit. Wow.
Players are just playing lands and shipping back. Patrick certainly doesn't want to run his spells into the counter magic that Henry can have on 2 mana.
Also doesn't want to unnecessarily deal himself any damage. And I guess like he knows that 4 is the big turn for Henry, so there's just no need to Thoughtseize him before that, because all of actually really disciplined play from Patrick. All of Henry's early spells are answers, and Patrick doesn't have any early threats.
Right.
So why use your Thoughtseize earlier than you have to, and not allow yourself to pick up the best possible spells that you can?
Right. He gives Henry basically 3 draw steps to hit a Lightning Angel or a Batterskull, which is what he really wants to get out of his hand.
That is exactly right. And Patrick kind of comfortable playing a waiting game and saving himself some life points. So I mean, really just disciplined play from Patrick. It serves as a reminder too. I mean, he's playing 5-color Zoo, but there's no need to be in too much of a hurry when you're playing that deck.
It has potent, huge hits, and there's a.
Wow. So Henry discarding Spellskite
instead of just casting it.
Instead of casting it, presumably because he doesn't want to walk right into a Geist of Saint Draft. But if Patrick has it, he can set up beautifully this turn, Thoughtseize into Geist with Henry only on 2 mana.
Henry's also got to be worried about Elspeth, but it looks like Patrick doesn't have a Thoughtseize? Is that what happened?
I mean, he has 2 Thoughtseizes in his hand. I think he's just not interested in casting it.
Okay.
I don't really understand why. Presumably, I guess because he knows Henry's not going to get to 4 mana because he missed a land drop. So again, like, why not save yourself some more life and set up all the colors that you're going to need?
Does he have a Geist in his hand?
I'm not quite sure that he does.
Probably not, right? I mean, that's a pretty straightforward play to the play you outlined.
And we see Henry just getting a Snapcaster in his 2/1 flash.
And just to prevent discarding in case he bricks on his draw step again, which he didn't. He hit a land.
All right, so 5 mana in total now for Patrick. Can play Thoughtseize right now through Mana Leak. Potentially what his play is just to say, like, hey, I want to play this entire match not letting Mana Leak do anything.
Yeah, so what he's doing here is so he doesn't have a Geist in his hand.
Yeah.
He's got an Elspeth. So he's setting up the same play that you just described, just a turn later for Elspeth.
For Elspeth, okay. So Threads of Disloyalty, Bolt, Snapcaster Mage, sees Mana Leak negate, so either way, if he casts that Elspeth, it's going to get countered.
Right. Now, you said he has another Thoughtseize, though, so he can rip apart something else if he feels like that's the right play. Yeah,
the downside about that only being if Henry gets another land, he still can have Snapcaster counter magic. Now, Patrick, right now, he does have 2 Tribal Flames in his hand, plus a Snapcaster. So, I mean, he has 15 points of burn right now.
Right. No Helixes in hand for Henry Romero, so at least as things stand currently, Patrick doesn't have to worry about getting blown out by some life gain. He's just going to take Snapcaster Mage.
I can see that. You know, really lowering Henry's clock. The question is, does he play Elspeth right now, or does he just try to set up Snapcaster Mage Thoughtseize?
Do you think he starts playing Tribal Flames? Yeah.
Yeah, I could. Is he's Tribal Flaming Henry or Tribal Flaming Snapcaster?
I couldn't quite see if he was. He kind of put it over the Snapcaster, but I couldn't quite see.
I think you'd probably start going to the Dome.
It's a lot of damage.
It is a ton of damage.
It's like Henry's thinking.
Because again, like okay.
He's gonna Mana Leak. Now Patrick does have an opening to resolve, open to potentially, actually he knows to resolve that thing, but he decides not to.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's not.
I mean, I think Patrick may have just thought that his Tribal Flames was going to get countered. I mean, he doesn't care that much. And now by taking Snapcaster Mage, Henry only a negate left for counter magic. Patrick could theoretically next turn set up Tribal Flames, and if it gets countered by negate Elspeth, we see, there's a spell Scythe there drawing any Tribal Flames that Patrick may cast. Patrick now down to 11 life. I mean, Henry's deck is capable of throwing a lot of damage at him. Patrick kind of wants to deal with that Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick's taken a passive role in this last game and kind of playing a little more controlling style where he's being very patient with his lands, with his mana, with his plays. And it looks like he's setting up for an Elspeth, but I don't know if Elspeth, it looks pretty good on this board if he can resolve it, but he knows he can't.
Well, I mean, he can cast Thoughtseize Elspeth this turn, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he had to sequence his lands exactly, right? He needs double white and black.
And he does have that.
I mean, Tribal Flame, I mean, I understand why Henry Mana Leaked the Tribal Flames. Patrick has a lot of mana right now. So Patrick is going to go down to 9, though.
Yes.
Which is not a whole lot of life points.
And he just said negate, and now we're going to see Elspeth hit the table here.
And he's going to make a token. He's basically saying, Henry, all right, look, if you want to Threads of Disloyalty, my soldier, more power to you.
Right.
And, I mean, Henry might need to do that.
He might do that.
I mean, right now, like, he's not going to beat Elspeth going long. I think he just needs to deal 2 more damage to Patrick. I mean, 7 is not a lot of life. All right. So
he is going to Threads. So he's setting up
Threads and just kill Elspeth.
Yep, he's going to kill Elspeth, but
it's like, okay,
All right, and that was a lot of resources that Patrick put into getting that Elspeth down on the table, but Henry had to use a lot of his own resources to get rid of it.
Oh, wow, what a devastating...
That Elspeth?
No, that was a Lingering Souls.
Oh,
what a devastating Lingering Souls. And again, Patrick set himself up for this Lingering Souls, giving Henry only a board of 1 toughness creatures, taking away all of Henry's counter magic, and this represents a serious problem for Henry right now.
This is a big deal.
Henry on the other.
Pyroclasm.
Wow. Okay,
Now-
kind of an awkward pyroclasm.
Yeah, it is. Very awkward, especially because he had to go on the beatdown plan with Snapcaster Mage.
No, I mean, all Henry wants to do, you can imagine right now, is just draw Lightning Angel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it represents a 3-turn clock for Patrick. Patrick doesn't have a lot of answers to it.
Yep.
That said, Patrick does have a lot of threats in his deck. I mean, he's got Geist still. He's got he's got more Lingering Souls. He's got more Elspeth. He's got Thundermaw, Hellkite.
See that he's also
And,
got a
Snapcaster
Snapcaster Mage in his hand.
I think you're going to probably try and Tribal Flames that Spellskite. Or do you just start doming?
I mean, Henry's still sitting at 19.
I think we're going to see a Snapcaster Tribal Flames. And some attacks probably this turn.
Yep.
Yep. It's going to be 14. I would expect Patrick
So
to
that's
attack
just,
with
that's just gonna,
two
but that's just
spirits.
gonna kill the Spellskite here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Patrick actually targeted the Spellskite.
Yeah.
That was the most important thing.
Well, I mean, like the thing is, if he targets Henry, like he just Henry's got an island up, so you don't want to give your opponent options to decide what to care about.
Okay.
You know. So Patrick actually attacking for
I mean,
3.
he just doesn't get any more damage, though, right?
Well, but I mean, your opponent. I don't understand.
I'm just asking why it was important to get rid of the Spellskite.
Well, I mean, because like Henry can redirect Tribal Flames to Spellskite if he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
So the only difference is you're letting, like, by targeting Spellskite, you're not letting your opponent make a decision.
Okay.
By targeting your opponent, you allow your opponent to make a decision and take advantage of the information discrepancy between the two of you.
I'm just saying you make him spend a mana if what you really want to do is kill the Spellskite, right?
But no,
Okay.
you have much to learn, my son.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
There's a Geist of Saint Draft for Patrick Sullivan.
All right, so that is a giant.
Yeah, it's just a
giant
huge beater.
Geist.
It's a nice clock, and it's on an empty board here as Henry can't seem to draw another spell. He's got a Tribal Flames in his hand.
And that Colonnade tapped. So, I mean, 6 is a big attack
It's
for
a huge
Patrick
attack
right
here. It's going to drop him down to 9.
Now, do you think you go for this Tribal Flames?
Henry doesn't seem to have much going on here, but he can certainly wait because if Henry wants to try to beat down, he's going to have to tap most of his mana for that Celestial Colonnade. If he wants to try to block with it, he's going to be able to tap him out basically the other way too.
So, and as we saw last game, Patrick perfectly willing to throw away his Geist for 4 damage.
That's right.
That would be a big 4 damage too, because that would put Henry at 5.
It's lethal.
Right, within range of his Tribal Flames.
Right, and so Patrick has to be thinking about what kind of mana, because right now Henry has to tap all of his lands except for Colonnade to activate Colonnade.
Exactly.
He can block presumably the Geist of Saint Traff, but then he does get in range of Tribal Flames.
Right.
And he's only got 2 cards in his hand, so what can he have? He can have a Spell Snare.
Right.
So
yeah, and that's all he's got to have.
kind of the way that he can get out of that situation.
No, totally. Now Henry,
Henry plays the land
untapped.
and untapped.
Okay, we're seeing some boldness. He basically is going to say, I think, to Patrick, like, look, kill me or I'll kill you.
Yeah. And, given his hand, that seems like perfectly correct.
Huge Snapcaster Mage for Patrick right there.
Oh, and there's a Lightning Helix, and he's going to aim it right at Patrick.
So Henry going to go up to 10, taking 6, but that is a Tribal Flames, and that is the match.
And Patrick, we hear some clapping out there as Patrick Sullivan defeats Henry Romero in a really close Game 3. That was a great game.
That was an amazing game to watch. Really, I mean, this is why Patrick Sullivan is one of the best aggressive